Spending your summer shaping policy and doing hands-on research sounds like a dream. Today we'll talk about what that's like and how to get there. Coming up next. Hey Honors Bulls, welcome back to the Honor Roll Podcast, the flagship podcast for the Judy Genshaft Honors College Podcast Network. I'm your host, Riva Gandhi, a fourth-year student studying biomedical sciences and public health. My co-host this week is Calvin Pham. He's a third-year studying global business. Thanks for being here, Calvin.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm
My first
glad.
podcast.
I know, that's so exciting. You have seen him on our social media, so what do you have to say to your social media fans out there?
Go like and subscribe. This isn't YouTube. We have YouTube actually also. And actually, we do need likes and subscribes on that, so please do that.
Yep, so go follow us at USF Honors on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. But as always, we like to start our podcast with one big question. So my question this week is, we've seen a lot of discussion about policy in this past year. How have you seen students get involved in policy making on campus?
That is great that you asked that actually, because I am the co-marketing chair for the newly formed student organization called the Future Strategist Program, which falls directly under GNSI, the Global National Security Institute here on campus. And for those of you that don't know, that's they're basically a think tank on campus. They do a lot with like foreign and national policy. So a lot of policymakers, a lot of people like that. And FSP, as we are a growing club, we work with a lot of people at GNSI, like fellows and stuff like that. So we're learning a lot from policymakers and people from other university. For me, that's obviously a big way how I'm learning about that.
That's really cool. And I think it's so important for honor students and students at USF to get out there and share their voices about policy, because we shape the environment we live in.
Mm-hmm.
So by speaking about it, we're actively changing the world we're part of. And speaking of policy making, we're excited to welcome honor student Madison Reiter to the podcast to share her experience about her internship in policy making and research with the Washington Center Internship Program and the Council of State Governments. All that and more coming up next.
Hello, my name is Santi Ramirez. I'm majoring in civil engineering and I'm a second year here at USF. Advice for the first years, I would say, is use your honors advisors. They will be your first point of contact when it comes to finding opportunities and taking advantage of those opportunities, such as global studies and research programs that we offer here in the Honors College. Thank you so much for listening. And now let's get back to the episode.
Hi, Madison. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Madison. I'm a senior studying political science and international studies with a minor in legal studies.
That's really cool. I love that you found a space at
cool.
USF. What drew you to pursuing political science and international studies here?
Well, besides my distaste for like chemistry and math, I really like reading and history, so I feel like those majors kind of combine like what I do in my free time. So
Yeah.
School for fun, I guess.
So over the past 3 years, you have been involved in like a lot of different experiences at USF, especially this past summer, which we'll talk about, off campus, like projects with Model Citizenship Lab. And also you were a legislative intern with the Hillsborough County Schools. So given all that, like how did being a student here at USF help you find like these opportunities, especially off campus?
Well, I feel like for USF, it's really easy to find opportunities. One, just because the Honors College, I mean, they have a billboard downstairs about like different things you can do and like the
Right.
study abroad trips and everything. But Canvas too, like professors are really like interested in like what you do and like personally. So like if you ask someone and you ask around, people have like things for like you to do. Like they have internship opportunities, they have just experience that other past people have done in like when they were in college too. So I feel like USF like fosters people to have external opportunities outside of USF, which is really good for when you like graduate and go into like your professional field.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I think I found, and Calvin, maybe your experience is a little different, but I found one of my biggest things, especially with research, is just going up to my professors and being like,
Yeah.
hey, do you have any sort of opportunities? Or do you know somebody who has any sort of opportunities? I actually got my research position from going to a lab here at the Honors College, and one of like the guest speakers had a research lab, and I was able to
No
join in.
way.
So I think, yeah,
That's so
networking is
cool.
so
Yeah.
important. But speaking of research, you were your legislative intern with Hillsborough County. What was that experience like for you?
For that, I really got an inside look into how policy on like the local and state level, because that's what the class was about. That was attached to the internship. Really about how like the process was. Like I was on meetings with lobbyists that would take the policy from the school district up to the Tallahassee. So it was really cool to kind of see like the process that they decided on for what Hillsborough County Schools really wanted. My supervisor, she was a assistant superintendent of Hillsborough County Schools, so she would meet with all the board members about like what policies they want in place, and that was really cool because just like the collaboration and cohesion that went into a single policy sheet was just so complex, and it was really cool to kind of get involved with that and have like my say about what I thought should happen, have my words put on paper, things like
Yeah.
that.
That's super cool. And I feel like policymaking we see as very procedural, and it's very, it goes from this level to the next level. But I feel like we forget that it's a collaborative process and these policies are affecting real people. And so being part of that system to be able to build that policy from the ground up is such an incredible experience. But speaking of incredible experiences, you also had the opportunity to study abroad with the
Yes.
Honors College. I believe you went to Poland, Germany, and the Czech Republic with the Holocaust Study Abroad program. So talk to us about that. That's so cool.
It was probably my favorite experience I've had at USF. It was so cool. One, because I've studied the Holocaust or was like really interested in it as a kid. So I've been reading books about it, and I've been wanting to go to all the camps and the museums in Europe. So it was just dream come true, to be honest. But so where we visited was the Bloodlands in Europe, where all like most of the camps were, because a lot of it was out of Germany. So it was really cool to kind of see the memorials there. Like the history of it was really interesting because memorials and just the leftovers of like the camps were there. So like people walk by, for example, like we went to Europe, you would just like walk by the Warsaw Ghetto. Or
Wow.
I went to Warsaw and you would walk by the Warsaw
Right.
Ghetto. And it was just crazy that it's just part of like the town culture to just like walk by like things that seem just like so foreign to us here. So I really like that aspect of the trip, and just like the people you meet too. Like everyone was really like involved in the topic, and really I just like had great conversations with like the other honor students that were on the trip too. So
I'm curious, like you're like studying political science and international studies. Like what were like some of the other like majors people studying in their like in your cohort in the study abroad? Like were they similar to you, or like did you get like really different like studies?
there was actually a lot of different majors on the trip. I know there was someone from in like economics, which is similar to political science in a sense, but we had like public health policy, biomedical sciences. It was really diverse, which really brought like different perspectives on it. One of the people that I met there, she was a biomedical science major, and she was really
wow.
interested in like the health aspect. Like we visited Auschwitz, and just like learning about the diseases and like the typhus epidemics that were going on, just
wow.
and like the conditions that people had to live in was really interesting for her too. So I really enjoyed like that conversation as well.
I never even like thought about like that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's really it's crazy amount of like the complexity of like the entire like Holocaust, and like with the war too, is just, it was amazing to see.
I think that's really cool. And especially because you have that exciting part of studying abroad with such a serious topic, it kind of
Yeah.
creates an interesting dynamic between the rest of your cohort and the material you're engaging with, because you're very excited to be in this new country, but you also have to remember the depth of what you're learning. And I
Mhm.
think the Honors College does a really good job of that, making it engaging for their audience,
Mhm.
but also making it so you're learning something, and you're learning something in a way that it matters. And I think that's one of the things I love about the Honors
Yeah.
College. But being a political science major, as Calvin mentioned, what did you take away from this program, and how did it help you grow professionally once you came back?
So, I mean, number one, it was just going to another country and seeing the cultures there. Just like it opened my eyes to the international community. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I added international studies as my other major, just because it was just so incredible to just dive into a culture, to like speak to people. Like we would go to restaurants and like they would be interested in like where we're from, like what we're doing here, and it was just like really cool to hear from different citizens like about what the Holocaust meant to them, about like their history and like their relationship to what had happened in World War II.
Mhm.
So it was just hearing different perspectives that just like opened my eyes to like how many different perspectives are like in the world, and like also here, just like bringing back those things that I learned from the people. It kind of shaped like how I thought about research and just my undergraduate journey altogether.
Like, did you know like any of the languages, like German, Polish, or did you like pick up anything?
No,
Like,
I was there for 2 weeks,
Mhm.
but they they pick Americans out like right away. Like they see you smiling and talking down the street, and they'll speak to you in English, and there was no tricking them. There was nothing.
I have a question about the food. This is kind of funny. When I go to other countries, I like go to like their McDonald's and like compare them all. Did you try any McDonald's over there?
When I was in Berlin, we went to the McDonald's when we were
No
having
way.
like the tour of the city.
Yeah,
It was good.
actually.
It was
Yes, it was fresh.
Yo,
Yeah, it was fresh. All
no.
the food that I had abroad, incredible. The pastries, the bread,
Mm.
just the
Oh my gosh.
pasta. As you can see, I like carbs, but it was so good. Yeah, McDonald's fresh. Definitely prefer it over American McDonald's.
That's really cool. And I love how, we see the differences amongst all of the different cultures. And I think we see that reflected even within the policies we have in the United States compared to other cultures. And speaking of policy making, this summer you actually had the opportunity to pursue some of your interests in legislature during your internship with the Washington Center
Mhm.
up in DC. Can you tell us a little bit about your internship?
Yeah, so over the summer I was studying in with the Washington Center. It's like this internship program for DC. They set you up with an internship, or they help you with the application process and set you up with a internship advisor to kind of help you along the application process and with resumes and professional development as well. So that happened in the spring semester leading up to the internship. And then when we were there, I interned with the Council of State Governments. It's a membership slash nonpartisan organization that focuses on like cohesion and cooperation in state policy. So it was a regional based organization that involved state legislators. So, and I interned under the national research team. So one of my supervisors was the director of research, and then I also researched under the Cape Youth organization, or the Cape Youth Project, with the Office of Disability Employment in the Department of Labor.
So that sounds really cool. It sounds like you definitely had a busy summer. So for our audience that might not be as aware, what exactly is Cape Youth?
So Cape Youth is a project with the Division of Disability Employment in the Department of Labor. They work with students coming from high school and different like ages to kind of transition them into like a professional atmosphere. So it helps them with professional development, helps them get jobs, and helps with employment policy for people with disabilities as well.
I think that's such an important topic. I
It
feel like
is.
it's not talked about enough on how disability affects day-to-day life. And we think about it, in terms of schooling, but we don't talk about it in terms of professional opportunity. So going a little bit deeper into that, what exactly were some of the projects you worked on with them?
So my role with Cape Youth, I was working under one of the project managers and just updating her on the current events with the federal government laws.
How exactly like did you get this opportunity to do this? Were you introduced like through USF or somebody, or how did you like hear about this?
Yeah. So with the legislative internship that I had with Hillsborough, that class, they posted on Canvas the Washington Center opportunity. And when I was in that internship, I really wanted to move a step forward. And I
Mhm.
started looking into it, started looking at different like internship opportunities in DC. And like at first, it wasn't like a realistic option. I was just kind of interested looking into it. But then I started talking to my professors and started just thinking about, well, maybe I could do this. Like people, like I could reach for that opportunity and I could go for, I mean, it's DC, like it seems so like far away from
Yeah.
Florida, but I, then I applied and then I got in, thankfully. And
Congrats.
then, thanks. And then, yeah, and I just like moved on from there. During the process, the Washington Center, they have like professional development and resume reviews and just strategies on how to get the application. But apart from that, I also researched like internships like on my own and applied for them separately. But they like you works hand in hand with the process too. So I applied to maybe 15, 20 of them. And then you go through the internship process or the interview process, and then thankfully they liked me enough to offer me a position as one of the O'Connor scholars. So
Yeah.
So what is an O'Connor Scholar exactly?
it's one of the programs with the Council of State Governments, and it just kind of separates you from just a simple internship and kind of gives you more research opportunities within the organization. So that was one of the reasons why I got to work on such like a broad
A broad project.
projects. Like I worked on AI, which I've never thought that I would even think of approaching, healthcare, disability law, employment law, just in general. Yeah.
Did you like go in with like a specific interest of one of those that we were looking forward to?
Not at all. My supervisors sat me down and asked what do I want to learn from, what do I want to take out of it, what do I want to what do I want to learn from my experience. Going into it, I just really wanted to get more hands-on experience with legal analysis and just looking at more legislation because I was really interested in law school too. So I wanted to build that skill in order to do better in the future.
That's fair.
And did your perspective on some of these things like AI and healthcare law, did that change from when you started your internship to the end of your internship?
Absolutely. AI seems so foreign to me. Like I'm not a technology person. So just looking into the policy side of it was really interesting. One of the research projects that I got to help with on the team was about AI policy in the States. And it was just really eye-opening. The amount of things that go into just a simple piece of legislation in the States. There's so many things that officials have to think about before they implement AI, which is just, it's unknown territory.
Yeah.
So a lot of states are very, how do I say it? I guess nervous and about being,
Like they're very like
Yeah,
cautious. Like
yeah, they're very cautious about like what to implement for their state. So just my job was to kind of lay out what different states could do and kind of help with that process with the research.
That's interesting. So when you were exploring, especially looking at AI, how did you go about researching AI? Because nobody knows what that entails yet. because there are so many
Yeah.
questions about it and like the ethics involved in it. So what was kind of your path when you were researching it?
So I really focused on what states were doing at the time. So I would take certain policies from Pennsylvania or California and kind of lay out to what specifically they were doing with just like the databases that they had to do, like the cloud that they had to include with implementing AI in government and like their own offices. I did a lot of legislative tracking too.
What is AI policy like? Like when I think of it, like I just think of like ChatGPT and stuff like that. So like, what is AI policy like? Is it like you were talking about like focus on government use of it, but does that go into like I know there's like copyright use, like people using people's name, image, and likeness or their voice to make music and stuff like that? What I don't know, like some examples.
Well, a lot of what governments are attacking right now is just the ethics of it.
Mhm.
So, of course, there's problems with copyright. There's problems with people using it effectively and efficiently, and the fear that it can be used the wrong way, or we're not watching it or monitoring it as we
Mhm.
use it, and that can create problems in different areas like economics, healthcare, um, in internal affairs with state governments. So that was part of the reason why the Council of State Governments approached this issue is just to kind of lay out what states can do to either get into the AI industry and go about it in an ethically and efficient manner.
That's so interesting, especially like AI is like so broad, and like with policy, like to cover something so broad, if it's too broad, it's not going to be effective, and if it's like too small, then it's like too limited to what it can do.
Yeah, and
Like,
there's just so many things that can go wrong or right with
yeah,
AI, and people are just so nervous of it nowadays that the public is also very wary of their government using AI
yeah,
for like their own
that's true.
processes.
And I'm curious to see how that's going to change. Even like the work that you did is going to change in the next year because we're pumping out AI like nobody's
Oh
business.
yeah.
So I'm curious to see how, as it becomes, I guess, smarter, if that's the right word to use, I'm
Yeah.
curious to know how it'll change and how the policies will be affected. But you also, throughout your research, you also got to visit the Department of Labor and witness like reauthorization of law and see your research play out in real time. So what
Mhm.
was that kind of like?
It was definitely a highlight of my experience. I was invited by the Department of Labor to give a presentation about just what was going on with Job Corps closing, and different like employment laws that were getting stricter with the federal government and how that was going to affect states and even their own department affecting disability law and even the Cape Youth program too. One of the visits, I actually got to meet two of the Cape Youth students, which was really cool because they were coming in from their hometowns for a conference to talk to people and network about their position with disability employment laws and advocate for their community. So it was really cool to to hear their perspective and get to hear how Cape Youth was affecting them. So my research, I mean, it was a small part of Cape Youth. So my job with Cape Youth was to inform my supervisor, who was one of the program managers of the Cape Youth program, about what was going on with federal government and the legislation they were putting through with employment law and specifically disability employment law. So I would write up executive reviews and talk about the history of legislation in the past, where like the origins of the ADA policies, and where it was going, what different departments and different people were saying about it in government. So I would look at the House and the Senate, what was going on there. I would look at the executive branch, and of course I would look at the Department of Labor. And then I would also look at what nonprofits are saying, to hear their perspective about what was going on and what they were thinking and their own research as well.
That's so interesting. It feels so detailed that I'm kind of curious, what did a typical day look like for you?
Mhm.
I would get projects on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. My supervisors, they really wanted in detail work. So half the time I would be just reading pages and pages of legislation that was coming from federal government and kind of laying out the synopsis about what the policy was saying, different important points that would affect Cape youth and people with disabilities and the different employment programs around the country, and just the impact on those vulnerable groups.
Yeah, so that's very intricate, a lot going into that. What was like your biggest takeaway from this now that it's done with?
It was similar to what I learned in Hillsborough County. It was just the amount of things that go into writing a simple piece of legislation and the amount of people that it impacts. You don't think about that when you're reading about what the president says on the news. You
Yeah.
don't think about
Mhm.
what Congress is actually
Mhm.
thinking in the interworks in the House and the Senate. So
Right.
I really got an inside look about how policy impacts people and different groups, how policy is made, and how like my organization, how we play into policy making. Because one of our purposes was to inform different legislators around the country about what is going on in other states. So, for example, a senator from New Jersey would contact us and ask what is going on in California with AI or healthcare, and then we would give a write-up memo about like what was going on, different things that they could do to implement the policy that they want, things like that.
Yeah, there's so much with that. When I like always think of policymakers, I always think of just like one guy like writing like policy on a
Yeah.
piece of paper on a desk. Like I didn't like even realize that there's just so much that goes
So
into
many
this.
people.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think that my biggest takeaway would be to get hands-on experience in your field to really understand like the interworkings of what you're going into.
And I love that you were able to find that at your internship. I think that's such
Yeah.
a rare find in being able to, you think you're passionate about something and then you realize you don't necessarily love it in the way you thought you would.
Right.
But it sounds like you not only learned a lot, but you were able to grow and develop within your field and definitely had a busy summer. I mean, DC is such a cool place to
Mhm.
be.
Yeah, it was really incredible. Seeing all the monuments and just visiting all the museums. Love.
Now, I
I'm
wish I
so
could go
jealous. Yeah.
back. Yeah.
That's really cool.
So it's really cool that you had all of these opportunities to meet people and connect with your cohort and really dive into policymaking, and of course have an incredible time in DC. But now that you're back at USF and you're a senior now, what kind of comes next for you?
Well, I wasn't sure like what I was gonna do with my interest in policy, so I am thinking of working either in policy or in a legal firm, and then applying for law school like the next cycle. So I'm kind of finishing
Okay.
up like building my application a little bit more. Yeah.
That's so exciting. I know
Good luck.
graduate
Yeah.
school is a daunting task to go
Yes.
to, especially something like law school where you have an exam and all of that stuff that goes into it. So big shout out to you
Yeah.
for being able to do that.
And one last thing, like we talked about your honors study abroad, and you kind of mentioned that was one of the reasons why you added your international studies. And so like looking back, how do you think the honors college really supported your journey through USF, through all the programs and internships that you did? Like how did it prepare for that, and how do you think it's prepared you for after school?
One thing I like about the honors college is that it really builds your professionalism. Like your professors in the classes, like they want to talk to you, they want to speak to you one-on-one. They encourage they encourage you to go out and do things. So a lot of the confidence that I got was from my professors in those classes to go out and apply for this internship program, go out and apply for the scholarship, just do things. And I think the honors college also provides a lot of that opportunity and provides ways to navigate applying for those things. I think it's really, really helpful, and I think it's a good foundation for what we need like when we graduate.
Yeah.
I think that's very true. I think a lot of my confidence also comes from the honors
Yeah.
college, and you're kind of, somebody told me once, it's good to be comfortable in discomfort. And I think the Honors College does a really, really good
They
job
really do.
of making you uncomfortable enough to where you feel comfortable in doing things that you're not used to doing. And I think this internship kind of proved that, where you were in this whole new world. So what advice do you have for other honors students who might be looking to do a similar type of internship?
Do it. Literally just do it. One, you're going to get a great experience. You're going to meet so many people. You're going to meet people that you're going to eventually work with. And like I'm going to know lawyers from all over the country because they're going to go into the same field as I am. Like I'm going to have like that connection with my field. So I think that's really cool. And I think that the skills that you gain from doing these internships and like these experiences and these study abroad opportunities, it opens your eyes, and it also provides you with knowledge that you're going to need going forward.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. And I love that phrase, just do it. I
Mhm.
feel like we should have that somewhere.
Just
Really should. Just take it from Nike.
Well, thank you so much, Madison. That's all the time
Thank
we
you.
have for. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It was
Thank
great.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us back in the studio. Riva, what did you think about the podcast?
I thought it was great. She seems so passionate about everything that she's doing in policy making, and she seems to have really gotten a lot of experiential learning during her time at USF. She, did a lot of work this summer with AI research and disability research, which is phenomenal, especially the connection she's gained. But she also had time to study abroad, which I think is a goal of many students. So I think it's great that she was able to do everything she wanted to.
And speaking of that study abroad, that honors study abroad that went to Poland, Germany, the Czech Republic, that was really interesting. That she also mentioned that she had like students that were biomed majors, which like completely unrelated. So I think that's really great that even like honors study abroad programs that might seem kind of like not related to your major, there's always some factor in there that could somehow relate. And she even said that her study abroad led her to add her international studies major. And I also thought it funny when she went to Berlin and went to McDonald's.
Yeah, that was
and,
a
like,
great anecdote.
She just said it was like more fresh food, better food than here, I guess. So I guess I'll just have to do an honors study abroad and go to McDonald's. Speaking of that, don't forget to check out the Honor Roll newsletter and visit our website at usf.edu/honors for upcoming events, updates, and news.
That'll do it for this week's episode. The Honor Roll podcast is recorded in the Judy Genschaft Honors College at the University of South Florida Tampa campus. Production assistance is provided by USF students Valma Shah and Sandra Napolitano. Thank you all so much for listening. Please do not forget to rate and review our podcast. We really appreciate your feedback. Please join us next time to hear more honor stories and talk to more members of the Judy Genschaft Honors College. Until next time, go Bulls!